We are back with I believe this should be the third part of the video. This is where we are going to um, build connection between the controller and the bones, and the mesh and the bone as well, right? So we're going to connect them because all the bones and controller is already drawn out and set up, right? The first thing you need to do is if you go to the window outliner, all right, you'll see a lot of long lists like this, right? You don't want to be leaving your model to have this kind of really kind of messy looking stacks of items in the outliner. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to group certain objects based on their own category, right? Okay, for example, like the mesh. Okay, so we're gonna select all the mesh model. You can select and drag like that, or you can select the first one and then you go down and then you hit and then you hold the shift key and then you click the last one. Okay, I believe that's all the model geometry objects. All right, so then I'm going to go Control G, or you can go to edit and group, all right, to group them. Okay, so we're going to name this, double click on it, we're going to name it as let's see, we should name the robot, right? A dummy. Let's call this a dummy underscore meshed, or just meshed, right? So mesh means 3D objects, or dummy underscore obj, or dummy underscore geo means geometry. All right, and then for the controller, you're going to select all this controller icon here and Control G again, and here we're going to name it as dummy underscore CTRL, stands for controller. The IK, we're going to be putting the IK actually in the joints. As you can see, the joint doesn't have much links because most of the joints are interconnected and they are all end up in the with joint hip. If you open the joint hip, then you see the expansion of all the joints that is linked or in the hierarchy of one another. Okay, so I'm going to make a group with the joint hip, which means representing all of the bones here. Okay, by me selecting this, I am selecting I'm going to be selecting all of the bones here when I group it, and then I hold shift and even include the IK and then Control G. Alright, I'm going to name this as dummy underscore bones. Right, now isn't that nice? It's more clean, right? It's not, when you import this object into your background environment and you want to do animation, it will look nicer this way, right? Plus there's a reason also why we do the groupings like this. Okay, right, now coming back to the main scene here. I'm gonna hide the mesh. All right, so yeah, I should be naming this the mesh, right? And I'm gonna hide it. All right, now I'm gonna build the connection. So this is the master controller, and the first thing we're gonna do is I mean, you can start almost anywhere, but I mean, just pick a place to start. All right, but there's no specific way, like if I start with the hand, like you always have to start with the hand. No. All right, you can start anywhere. All right, as long as you know what you're doing. Okay, so I'm going to start with the center. Okay, so for this one, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be I'm going to use a constraint here. All right. Of course, if you don't have this, it should be inside the animation main menu, and you see constraint, and the constraint that we're going to use is the parent constraint. Okay. Right. So let's do that. So select the first to apply constraint, like to constrain this bone to be, to the controller here. You need to select the constrainer or the controller first, and then say Control Shift select the hip bone. Right. And then you go to the constraint, and then you click on the parent option here. Okay, just double check. Okay, if I reset this, just make sure that maintain offset is checked, and then hit add. Right now there's a blue here, which means join hip, which means the one that is getting all the blue information here is this bone here, not the controller. Alright, so you must make sure you do that. If you do it the wrong way, if the controller have the blue one, which means you are doing it wrongly. Okay, so I'll give you a scenario here. Just undo these steps. Okay, this is the point where there's no blue here. I haven't applied the constraint yet. So what I'll do is, let's say if I accidentally select the bone first and then Control Shift the controller, and I hit the constraint parent, you will see that the controller have the constraint, not the bone. Right, you can clearly see it here. If I select the controller and it highlights here, I open this hip, and I see the exclamation mark is here. So it's the other way around. This exclamation node, which is the constraint node, should be applied on the bone, not the controller. So now if you want to remove it, there's one way, is you can select this and you can delete them. Alright, so I'm going to undo this. Now another way to remove this is by not using the outliner. You can select the bone and the controller, like just like how you applied just now, and then go to constraint and then remove target. Okay, you will see even there's no more node here. Alright, just like how we do how we apply the locator in our first video. Alright, so that's how you remove the constraint if you apply it wrongly. Okay, so let's apply it properly now. Select the controller, and then Control Shift select the bone, right? And then constraint and parent option, just make sure maintain offset is checked, hit add. Alright, super. So if you move this, you'll see that the bone will start to follow the controller. Alright, you also want to apply another thing here. Alright, you select again. I'm going to do 2 times. Wait, let me see. No, actually you don't need that. So yeah, applying constraint should be enough. Okay, in this case. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to constrain all the controller on the upper torso, the torso body here, the upper body. After that we will do the lower leg. Right, I always do rigging like that. Okay, so I select the controller. Use the selection tool is more better for this one, for this operation. So select controller, Control Shift select the spine one, and then you go constraint, but this time not use parent, we're going to use just orient. Click on the options, make sure you reset the settings and maintain offset is checked, and then you hit add. Okay, so what we want is actually here, the blue is only on rotation, orient, constraint, only constraint, rotation. Yes, so as other bones here, you only want the controller to constrain the rotation of the bone, not everything. But the hip is different, because the hip well, our hip tend to move in space, and you also want our hip to be able to rotate. All right, so that's why we use parent constraint for this. Okay, but the other part here is just rotation. We are not going to be moving the bone because it's not logical. All right, so reflect back on yourself, your bone anatomy. That's how it works, right? Okay, so yeah, when you look at the hip here, you see translate and rotate is controlled by the controller here. Okay, let's continue on. So this will be orient constraint as well, and so as the hand here. All right, so I'm gonna do it very quickly. So use the selection tool and just constrain that. I already set the orient constraint before, so yeah. Yep, so I'm gonna do this. If you don't want to keep going back here, all right, another faster way is you can hit G, because G recalls the last used tools. So my last used tool is orient constraint, so I just hit G. You can see that it recalls back the constraint. So this will make me work faster and make you work faster as well. All right, so there you go, click, bam. But just be mindful that you're selecting the correct order of the selection. Bam, bam, bam. Thank you, ma'am. All right, see how fast that is. Okay, just double check the bones, the ball bones here. Make sure it has the blue. Just sometimes you're not focused and you realize you do it wrongly. Okay, that's correct. Just always good to double or triple check. Right? Okay, done. Let's do the bottom for the legs. Okay, now the legs using the IK system, right, that I mentioned before. So it is a bit different, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to use a different set of constraint for this. For the foot controller, because as you know now, the IK here is the one that controlling the leg, not the actual bone already, right? It's controlling the bone. The IK is controlling the bone. So if the controller controls the IK, means the controller that indirectly controls the bone, right? It's logical. Okay, so we're going to apply a set of constraint that is called, we're going to use a point constraint for this, right? So select the controller, Control Shift, select the IK, alright, see the IK, and then go constraint and point constraint, make sure it's checked. Alright, same as this. Hit G, point constraint that. Now if I move the foot controller, you will see, hey, it follows, right? Now now let's do the knee angle, knee swivel. This one will control left and right like this. Will control the knee angle or the swivel of the knee here. So to do that, since this is a controller, we select it first, and then Control Shift select the IK. Okay, and then we're going to use the constraint, and we are going to apply another new constraint called pole vector. Alright, this one don't bother, you don't have to click this, you don't have to change that at all. Just select controller, select the IK, constraint, pole vector. And if you see the line, it's like this, which means you are doing it correctly. Okay, and also the angle, you can see the triangle here is showing you that if you move the leg up, it should be straight and not swiveling to the side. Alright, so now let's test the swivel. See, it controls the swivel of the knee. Okay, again, do it for the next leg. Control Shift, select the IK, and then constrain pole vector. Alright, there you go. Just double check that. Alright, it's working, it's functional, it's good. Okay, the next part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to because point constraint, if I select the IK, only controls translation, right? So it doesn't control rotation. Now our leg, we want it to be able to our controller, we want it to be able to control the rotation of the leg, I mean of the foot here. So but it won't happen, all right? Because you need to do one more step. So I'm going to hide the model. So I'm gonna, you see the ball here, the rotation of this ball, this joint. I want this rotation is controlled by the foot controller. Okay, then I'll be able to actually move, or I mean rotate the foot, all right, of the model. So I'm going to select controller, select the ball. I'm not selecting the IK, remember, I'm selecting the ball of the bone here, and I go constraint, and I hit the orange constraint. All right, again here and here, G, see, right? But you won't see it here, right? Because later on when we constrain the leg model to the bone leg, which is this, the bone leg here, then you'll be able to see the foot rotation. All right. Okay. Before, okay, I think we done quite a lot already. So I'm gonna, one thing I want to do is I want to bring this higher than the knee right now. Okay. So you see, because if I use the move tool and if I let's say raise my leg at the ankle point here higher than the what you call this, the knee controller, right? What will happen is you will see that it will start to freak out and become this way, right? It could just go crazy. All right, so to avoid this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this knee angle controller, I'm going to bring this up to the point of the waist, okay, so that if I move the foot higher, you see it is still stable up to this point. All right, it doesn't go crazy like just now. Okay, I'm going to save my work. All right, so we already built the link, the constraint between the controller and the bone, but let's see what we got so far. If I move the hip controller here, if I use the move tool and move it, you will see certain things are a bit weird, right? Especially if I rotate the arm controller down, it bends like this. Because it's actually because if I bend this, you see this one doesn't, the other controller in front here is not parent yet to one another. All right, so this should supposed to be rotating down as well, following the upper arm controller. Then it will avoid this weird twist on the bone or weird rotation on the bone. So now this is what we're going to do. We're going to make sure all our controller is parented to one another. All right, so basically like our hand controller here will be the child to our forearm, and our forearm will be the child to our upper arm, and our upper arm will be the child to, of course, where does it link to? The spine one, and the spine one will be the child to the hip. All right, so head, of course, just follow where this pointer is pointing, right? This arrow here, the bone arrow. So this is going to be parent to here, this controller, right? Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to start with the hand. Okay, so I'm going to select the child and Control Shift select the parent. So the parent must always be the green color, all right, which is the last selection, and then just hit P. Before I hit P, I'm going to open the controller group here. You'll see it's all everything is all outside. It's not in to one another. So the moment I hit P, bam, see the plus sign here? If I open, oh, the hand controller is now under the forearm controller, alright, which is the left side. You see now it goes into a hierarchy. So this is the child, this is the parent. So now we're going to parent this one, control shift or just shift, select the one that's going to be the parent, which is the upper arm, and hit P. There you go. Now it goes one stack inside. Now you got 3 levels: upper arm, underneath the upper arm you got the forearm, and underneath the forearm you got the hand, right? Okay, in case you want to unparent, what can you do is, let's say if I want to unparent the hand controller, alright, but before that, just watch what happened here. Now if I apply rotation on the upper arm, the rest of the controller should follows. You see, it's more better now. Alright, so now coming back to the question just now, if I, let's say the hand controller here, I want to unparent it. How do I unparent it? So one way to do that is, while having the child selected, like the hand controller here, just hold Shift P, click Shift P. Now you see, now it's outside. Alright, so if I rotate this upper arm, this one won't follow because it's no longer following the forearm. Okay, I'm going to undo this, and I'm going to parent this back to the forearm controller. Okay, I'm going to do this again for the other hand. So hit P, this, say P. Alright, now just it's good that you always try, just check, just double check, make sure that that everything follows correctly. Now this upper hand controller and both upper hand controller and also the neck, you see where does it link to? It actually linked to this bone, right? This bone and this bone and this bone linked to this bone. So actually this tree controller will be the parent for this tree is the spine 1. So select spine 1, the last selection as the last selection, and it's a green color, and hit P. Ooh, see, now everything is inside spine 1. You open this, you'll see upper arm left, upper arm right, right and left, and also the neck outside, right? So spine 1, select the hip, and then P. Alright, so P on that. Now the hip controller, the knee controller, select, and the parent for this, there are a few other versions, like some other people do differently, but for me, I will parent this to the hip. Alright, so parent that to the hip. So that's just my style, because rigging is quite it's kind of subjective, depending on what works and what not, and what works. Some style works better than another person's style. So yeah. Alright, okay, so this is already a parent to the hip. Now you won't parent this to the hip because it's going to be weird, because what we can do right now is, if I select the hip controller, if I move it down, you will see like as if there is a floor down there, and the robot is not going to go through the floor, right? So that's what we want actually. Okay, let's see. All right, so now not the last part yet, the next step, right, is to parent the hip controller to the master controller. Alright, because the master controller is the one that is controlling everything. Alright, okay, so select the hip controller and also the foot controller as well, and the last selection will be the master controller, and then hit P. There you go. Now if I move the master controller everything should follows. Alright, cool. Even rotation. Alright, that's cool. Okay, we about done at this stage, but there's one more thing we're going to do, because okay, right now rotation of the master controller is good. Alright, moving it up, down, left, right is good. It moves everything. The problem is with the scale. If I use scale and I scale at the center here of the gizmo, look what happened. The bone does not shrink and follow my controller. Now that will be a big problem when you do animation, and when you realize your character is a bit too big for the environment. Alright, then you won't be able to scale the size of your character based on your environment. So instead, then you have to go another option where you need to resize the background to fit the character, which is not a good way to do, because the background have so many models, and you don't want to be resizing a lot of objects just to cater for the character. Might as well you scale the character instead of the background. So how do we do this? Alright, now what we can do is we can make the group of the bone. If you see the bone group, right, I'm selecting the bone group node. I'm not selecting the hip, because the hip is under the dummy bone group, right, which is here, hip joint hip, sorry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the dummy to be constrained on the scale, which means the size resizing, and to be constrained on scale to the master controller. Right, so let's try and do that. Okay, so I'm selecting the controller first. Alright, because I'm using the constraint. Okay, so constraint, you always select the controller first. Okay, and then just hold shift, or just hold control, and then click on the outliner here, the dummy bone group. Alright, the group here, see the icon here. Okay, now I'm going to go to constraint, and then just make sure that it's thick and apply the scale constraint. Okay, let's see what happened here. When I resize my master controller, you'll see now everything resized to its correct place. Alright, okay, alright, so I guess that does it. Let's put back to 0 value. Right, then when you want to place your character anywhere in the scene, you can just place it here. You can apply rotation, and you can even try to resize it, and everything resize. Alright, but this is just the bone. But what about the character, the model itself? Right, it is still not influenced by the bone. Right, now it's time to get that influence. Right, okay, so there are a few ways you can go about this. Some people would use skin, smooth bind skin, to skin the model to the desired bone, right, that is supposed to control it. So that's one way. Right, but what I'm teaching you is another different way, but it's a little bit it's a bit non-destructive for bones. Alright, I mean for robot, because I'll show you later after this. Alright, so I'm going to show you the link. You're not going to use skin, you're going to use constraint for that, since it's made out of many parts. Alright, So let's try and do that. Okay, so now for the hand, we want both of this model, the ball joint and also the hand, to be constrained to the bone. Remember, bone is dealing with the bone, not the controller. The controller deals with the bone. Right, so the model of these two will be constrained to the bone of the hand. All right, so but you have to do this one by one. So I'm going to use the selection tool again. Select the controller, which is the bone. Control shift or just shift. Select the model, and then you go constrain. And what you want is the parent constraint. Okay, parent constraint. Click that. All right. Okay, now notice that it doesn't constrain the scale, right? Just apply. Let me just show you here now. If I scale the master controller, big or small, notice that the hand model stays the same size. Okay, because it is not affected by the scale. So you need to apply two constraints here, the parent constraint and also the scale constraint. Okay, so I'm going to select the controller again, which is the bone. Hold shift or control shift, select the model, constraint, then I'm going to parent constraint the scale. Just double check. Right, maintain offset is checked. Add. Okay, now look what happened here. When I scale the master controller, you see it becomes small because the scale is influenced by the constraint of the bone size. All right, that's cool. So we need to do that. There's a lot of work here, so I will not talk so much and just do it. All right. So I mean a lot, because we're just going to do a lot of repetition of what I did here just now. So this, select the bone, select the model, constraint, parent, constraint, scale. All right, done. Now the forearm model will be parented to the forearm bone. I mean will be constrained to the forearm bone. So here, select this. Constraint, parent, constraint, scale. Right. So where's this one? Constraint, parent, constraint, scale. Okay. So the upper arm bone controlling the model here. Scale parent. This one. Scale parent. Okay, now let's test the hand. Ooh, look at that. The controller is moving both of bones and also the model. I mean, indirectly. It controls the model. See how cool is that? Alright, so I'm going to do a speed time lapse, but not so fast, alright, so that you can still follow, because it's going to be because the video is going to be super long if I keep on doing it in real time, but I'll let you guys see. Okay, so speed time. Oh yeah, we're back in a real-time mode right now. Okay, just want to highlight how to further make sure to further to speed up your workflow right now, because it's kind of hassle to keep on going to this menu here. So what you do is you can create a shortcut on the shelf here. All right, I'm in the shelf, so I can open let's say the custom shelf. This custom shelf is empty. You can find out more tutorial about shelves in other tutorials. Right now I'm going to use custom shelf since it's empty, and I want to add these two constraints in this shelf. Right, so how to do that is make sure you're not selecting anything and go constraint. When put your mouse at scale constraint and hold Control Shift and then just click on it. Right, I mean you can't hold Shift and click on it, it will open different things. So I can even call Control, doesn't work, right? Okay, so constraint, Control Shift, parent. So this is parent, this is the icon for what I call it, the scale, right? So this is how you do it. See, this model haven't got influence yet, so select, and then just click. Ooh, so fast, right? Okay, back to speed time. Alright, we are back in real time. So let's check our model here. Move it. I like to move it. I like to move it. Alright, check that out. Okay, it's doing fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Now watch this when I rotate the foot controller. See, the foot will actually rotate. That's why you constrain the foot controller, and you constrain the the ball joint here. You use the orange constraint just now, right? I mean, I used the orange constraint just now, so that's the reason why, so you can control rotation on the foot. Okay, so I think everything should be fine. Robot is ready to go. Robot is ready to move. Right, so I can move it all around with the master controller. Okay, can bring it all up. I can rotate it. I can even scale. Oh, I'm smaller. Like big, like I'm smaller. Yeah, just fooling around. Right, so that's the tutorial for today. Right, I hope you enjoyed this and hope it has been an educational journey for you. So do subscribe if you like my video tutorial. I'll see you around with more video tutorial, and thank you very much. Thanks for your time. I really